Hey everybody, welcome back to the Wicked Ones podcast. This is Tara.
And this is Jen.
Yeah, what's going on this week?
Not a whole lot. It's quiet around here. We no longer have the chickens.
Sans chickens.
No chickens. The girls are super excited. They went to a farm down the street. Farmer Judy, she has 2,000 chickens.
Oh, Ava was telling me about that. She's like, guess how many chickens they have?
I know. When I had to play the same game because I didn't go to drop off. I was like, 20? I don't know how many an average chicken farmer has. So the girls are super excited. They're going to be by themselves for about a month, I guess.
Aww.
Farmer Judy set up a special little area for them until they can be with all the other chickens. So the girls are excited to go back and see if they can find, who our chickens are. And they met a cow that kicks, which I was dying when they were telling me the story.
A cow that kicks?
That's how she introduced the cow to the girls. They're like, oh, he's so nice, but you gotta watch out. He kicks. So now he's like he's the kicker cow.
The kicking cow.
The kicking cow to the girls. Like, he looks so sweet, but don't get close. He'll kick you.
Oh.
So that was it's kind of sweet.
Oh, no, that's cool. So I'm sure she appreciated the extra little chickens. And
then she was kind enough to say, if you guys decide to do chickens again, please let me know. You can always bring them here. And I'm, no.
You're like, yeah, that was a one and done.
No, we had our chicken experience. We're good.
We're done.
They were super cute, though.
Oh, they were. No, they were. I just appreciated that you called one of them Chicken Nugget. I was like, come here, Nugget.
Oh, he's so cute.
You have no idea.
Well, what's going on with you guys?
I mean, it's still just lots of baseball. And
it's just the beginning of lots of baseball.
I know.
Right?
It's going to be, yeah. I mean, but I will tell you that it's fun. I mean, I say that like, oh, God, we're at the baseball field again. But I love watching the games, and I love just seeing these kids improve. And I know they're only 8 years old, but they amaze me. I mean, the things that they can do and the plays that they make, I'm like, you guys.
Well, as much as they're playing, for sure.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool.
That's good.
Yeah, you know that song Centerfield that plays every night when Chase is in the shower? He cranks that up on the Alexa, and he's in there in the shower. I know he's dancing in there singing
I don't know that song.
I'll have to play it for you when we're done here.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know
It's so cute. Yeah, other than that, I'm planning Ava's birthday. So I know we're in the middle of moving and we're between houses, and there's boxes everywhere, so we can't have a party. She understands that, but we're working on making it special. And then as far as homeschool, I was trying to stretch it out and align myself with the public calendar. But finally I just said, all right, here's the deal. You can work as hard as you want to or as little as you want to. But when you turn the page in those books and it says, congratulations, you've finished your curriculum, that is when summer starts for you. So Chase did 4 math lessons today, and Ava did like 5 English lessons. So she only has 1 more left, and then she has a little bit of math. But yeah, so they're kind of appreciating that. So we're completely done with history. We have 1 science lesson, but I'm kind of like holding off on that because it's constellations, and I thought we'd wait till we could bust out the telescope and do it this summer.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, so maybe your girls could come over and we could talk about the constellations, and we can do like a whole thing. And
Stella loves the stars.
Make the kids do one of those radish kids boxes that keep showing up. I got like 8 of them.
Okay, we have to talk about that after this, because Stella actually just asked me again if she could order one, and I said no. Miss Tara has a bunch of them. She said we could
tell her
borrow
to come
one. So
to our pantry and take her pick.
So we'll talk about that after.
Yeah. But I'm excited to hear the rest of the story that you have for me, because I tried real hard not to Google it. I know I made a little mistake. If anybody noticed that, probably not on our on the write-up that I did, because I couldn't Google it. I promised you I wouldn't, and I thought you said there was new information, so I had put that in the little blurb at the very end.
It's not so much new information as the documentary brought light to some things that might have been kind of glossed over. So the information's kind of always been there, but maybe it wasn't given the focus that it needed, per se.
Well, I can't wait to hear what you have for me so that I know what happened back then and then what's going on now. And
I'm curious to hear. Yeah, tell me exactly what you think. So I'm going to give you the part 2 of the murder of James Jordan Sr. And when I left off, both Green and Demery were being interviewed by police. Do you remember that? Yes. They had both come in willingly to the police station. Demery was kind of on another warrant for robbery.
And it was Daniel and Larry, right?
Yes, Daniel Green and Larry Demery.
Okay.
So they're both being interviewed with the police, but so Robeson County, we could do another episode.
Just on this place?
Just on this place.
Oh,
if you're going to nap, do not nap in Robeson County. It's not they have their issues. I mean, they have political injustice, racism, police corruption. It's definitely not a place you want to be a victim of crime, and you don't even want to be a criminal here because it's not going to turn out.
And I did read in one of the articles I was kind of looking over to just kind of do a little write-up or whatever, I did read somebody was saying that James used to do that all the time. Like, he would never hesitate to pull over and take a nap and all that.
Yes, so they were saying he was very, like I told you before, he was very frugal.
Yeah.
So he wasn't going to pay for a hotel if he didn't need it the whole night.
And people who travel often like that probably just have their own routine, and it's not a big deal to them. Whereas you and I would be like, oh, I don't know.
I was like, why did he pull over on the side of the road? And other people that knew him were not surprised that he made that decision.
Yeah.
So Robeson County is the poorest county in North Carolina. There's a huge racial divide. There's 3 kind of like segregations of people. There's the Native Americans, African Americans, and white.
Okay.
I'm sure we can imagine in which order that goes as far as, I don't want to say favoritism, but it's just not a good situation. All 3 groups collide.
Okay.
None of them like each other. So the Native Americans are fighting with the African Americans, and like nobody.
Is there gang activity there, or is it just?
No, I don't think so.
No. Okay.
I didn't read anything about gang activity. And between 1983 and 1987, the homicide rate was the highest in the state and double the state average in North Carolina.
Wow. Okay.
So and the highest population of murdered was actually Native American, and then African American, and then white.
Okay.
The county also led, I was looking for some more recent stats, and they led the state in violent crimes in 2014, 2015, 2017. In 2016, it was number 2. I don't have anything more current than that because I guess it takes a couple years for them to come out with the stats. But the most current rating is number 5. So they're really proud to like have dropped down.
Wow.
I know.
Okay.
I'm not going to go too deep into the corruption there, but I wanted to give a couple examples of things that were going on there. So one was that Sheriff Hubert Stone, and he was a good old boy. Exactly how he's been described in multiple sources and a documentary. It was his like leadership when he was sheriff is known as the Stone Age.
Oh,
so
that's not good.
So
it was like the Wild West there.
I don't know if it was the Wild West, but he was a good old boy, right? So like probably some supremacist type stuff. I don't want to go too deep into that.
I know what you're saying. I know
that. I mean, like I said, maybe one day I'll go that entire route, but there was obviously some less than ethical things going on during his time when he was in charge. So his son, Kevin Stone, actually shot and killed an unarmed drug suspect. He pulled this guy over. His name was Jimmy Earl Cummings. He was a Native American. He didn't read him his rights. It was a very shady experience. It caused like a lot of unrest in the community. It sounded bad. The details are very shady, and there was an investigation done by the SBI, but he got a short leave of absence and he was just right back on the job. There was also this, you have to keep in mind too, because when I tell you this story, just keep in mind that they're probably not the most moral people that I'm talking about, because this story probably sounds really crazy. So there's a gentleman by the name of Terry Evans, and he was approached by a man named Edward Zipowski. And he wanted to hire Evans to murder the sheriff's son, Kevin.
Okay.
So it's probably not like the most upstanding citizen if you're looking for a murder to hire and you go to this guy. But Evans was like, no, no thanks. He didn't take the job. But instead, he went to the sheriff and was like, hey, someone's trying to hire me to murder your son.
Yeah.
At the time, he did not know the guy's name, but he gave him a description. So Sheriff Stone was like, thank you so much for letting me know. I'm going to contact the SBI regarding this. I'm going to let them know that there's been a threat made against my son, who's a deputy. And we want to tap your phone just in case the guy calls back.
I see right where this is going.
What do you think? What do you think happens?
Can I make a guess?
Yeah.
Oh, I think they took this guy out.
Yeah. The next day, a deputy shot him in his car, dead.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm so surprised. No, not
so. Surprised. And it turns out nobody ever noticed the SBI of this murder for hire plot. No one reached out regarding a phone tap. Nothing.
Huh.
So I could go on, but that's just kind of what was going on. Like,
so there was some shady business going on at the time, and
I feel like you should just know, like, the level of confidence we should probably have in these people.
Okay.
Surrounding the case.
Noted.
Makes sense, right?
Yes.
Okay. So, like I said before, Green and Emery kind of had that same version about a guy named Rick, right? Mm-hmm. Who had the car and wanted them to get rid of it. The police saw right through that, knew that they had corroborated ahead of time. The story was made up. Basically let them know that. Mm-hmm. But while they were doing the interviews, they were at the station. The SBI goes to Green's mother's mobile home. Okay. They search the place. And I thought this was interesting. They open a shop vac. I don't know they would search the inside of a shop vac. They open a shop vac and they discover a .38 caliber pistol.
You know, that is how they found a lot of those taser dots from the...
You're right. Yeah.
They found them in the shop vac.
So someone had hidden the pistol inside the shop vac.
Oh.
So they confiscate
Maybe this is a common place to hide things like that. Who knows?
Don't hide your valuables in shop bags, apparently. They're looking around and they see a shelf full of VHS tapes. Now that dates the story, right?
Oh.
VHS tapes.
Yeah.
One of the tapes does not have a label on it. I don't know what made them think that was important, but they take the tape. They watch the video back at the station and they discover that it's Daniel Green. And he's rapping on this. It's like a homemade rap video.
Okay.
I'll show it to you after this because you have to see it.
Please do. Yes.
It's not good. It's terrible. And at one point, this was very eye-opening to me because I kind of started at the end of, this is not even in what I have written up, but it was very eye-opening to me because I kind of started at the end of what happened and then I went back. So I see this clean-cut guy. I did total different perception after I seen this video. And there's a couple other videos, and I was like, oh, okay. Because obviously they clean you up, right? And all of a sudden you start speaking real proper. And this video was horrifying. At one point, he looks into the camera, and he's like, pop, pop, 2 shots in the head, bro.
Oh, okay.
Like, it wasn't like rap, like, I'm Coolio. Like, it was like talking about, like, shooting people and probably not the best thing for law enforcement to find.
Right. I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean anything.
They're chatting with you back at the station regarding a murder. It probably doesn't, but it doesn't look great. But there's more. The real damning evidence is that Green is actually wearing Jordan's Chicago Bulls watch and his NBA All-Star ring.
In the video.
So these were items that Michael had gifted to him. It was like his 1986 blue All-Star ring and then also like the Chicago Bulls watch.
Yeah. Okay.
He had them in the video. Like you can see them plain as day.
Yeah.
I mean, he has nothing on except for like jeans and like this bling, no shirt. So it's very.
Do you think that they had watched all the other videos or something, like popped them in the VCR? Because it's crazy to me that they would
only take that one.
Yeah. Well, that and just it sounds like they did a pretty thorough job of ransacking the place and finding what they needed.
That's what they said they took the one that wasn't labeled. I don't know. It was weird. I was like, well, we had those random VHS tapes at that time where you would just record over and over and over again.
All of my rap videos that I've made, I need to put a label on them and make it real boring.
They weren't allowed to use the video in court. It wasn't allowed. They could only use
because they didn't have a warrant for it.
They only allowed, I guess it was something about like stereotyping. It was just very damning. So they were allowed to use still shots. I'm assuming probably because of the words coming out of his mouth. Oh, yeah. This is me making a huge assumption. But it was watching the video. I can see
that though, yeah.
You're like, oh, no, don't say that. Don't say that. So he's flashing his, I don't know. So a little bit more about Green and Demery. They were best friends growing up. They met each other in grade school. Green had a stutter, and Demery really stuck up for him. And it was really rare. They had a rare friendship because Native Americans and African Americans were not friends. Mm-hmm. So they kind of came up together through thick and thin, right?
Yeah.
They weren't a stranger to the police station. They had both been interviewed before. They both had past criminal records.
Well, I remember you said they had records. Yeah.
They did. So Green had only been out of prison for 3 months before Jordan's death. Mm-hmm. That's not very long.
Did they say what he went for?
Yeah. Armed robbery and assault with a deadly weapon.
Oh.
He only served 2 of his 6-year prison sentence. He got out. I know you're just kind of like, oh.
Well, and this is what we talk about too. Why are you letting these people out?
And then Larry Demery, I couldn't find too many details about exactly. I don't think he had done any prison time yet, but he had a very violent criminal record and also he was currently being indicted for armed robbery. Like that's what one of the warrants was for. Mm-hmm. When I look back and I think about it, so you have 2 minority kids. I mean, they're both 18.
Yeah.
Hardly can call them adults. Probably didn't come from a very educated background. Don't mean to sound insulting. In a very white community, and they're suspected of murdering the father of a superstar who was especially iconic in North Carolina.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
They need to solve this case. So things don't look...
Someone had to go down for this.
Things don't
For sure.
Yeah, things don't look good for them. Yeah. I mean, even if they are guilty or not, like...
Right now, you are our best option at
I don't know if they're going to look any further past this because if you're both guilty of armed robbery before. You just like
it's not like they had a squeaky clean.
Right, the ducks really line up. I don't know. Okay. So they're both being interviewed. The police do, I think, exactly what they always do. Obviously, I'm not a police officer, but I imagine that they always try to turn one against another.
Yeah. I'm sure they just want to get them talking as much as possible.
That's right, but they play the game too, right? Like, Larry's telling me
saying this, and you're gonna go down, and he's
Larry's
get
talking.
Out.
What are you gonna say? Yeah. Like, are you gonna let him get the deal? Right. That's the kind of stuff that was going on.
Right.
So they were, they're saying like, death penalty's on the table.
I'm sure they were doing anything they could to get them to talk and say
what they wanted.
Say what they needed.
What they needed. Yeah. I guess kind of.
Well, and I don't mean to make it sound like they were trying to coerce a confession, but I just think it's, like you said, I just think it's a normal protocol and way to go about talking
use
to
that.
them.
Like, hey, your partner over here is, he's chirping like a bird. Tell me, are you going to tell me your side, or are we just going to go off what he says?
Right.
So Demery's the one who he caved. He gave the first confession, and he turned on Green, indicating him as the trigger man.
Okay.
Green also states at one point during his interview, the police officers presented him with a document to sign stating that Demery was, in fact, the trigger man. Like, he was sitting there, they come in with this affidavit, and they're like, sign here, and it stated...
So they didn't tell him what it said? They just asked him to sign?
They were like, you need to sign this. And when he read it, he was like, I'm not signing that. Okay. But it basically, again, I'm not there, but I'm assuming they might have done something similar to Demery, right? Like, sign this. Like, this
and
is
maybe
it.
he signed it not reading it.
No, I think he threw his friend under the bus.
Okay.
Yeah, he turned on his friend.
So he knew what he was doing.
He knew what he was doing, yeah. Because one of them was going to get a plea deal. And it was just a matter of who it was going to be. So... Right. He said that Green was the trigger man. Now, Demery's not going to get off. So, like, the death penalty and life in prison is not off the table for him. Okay. Even though he turns on Green and says he was the trigger man, it doesn't reduce his sentence at all.
Okay.
So, he was also, which I don't know if it even matters if you have life in prison, but he was also up against, like, robbery and, like, some other things. So, they were hoping by him pleading, he would get some leniency in some other areas.
Okay. I was wondering what
motivated him to take the deal. Yeah. So the case is super ugly. The footage that I saw, very unsettling. They parade Green and Demery in with Sheriff Stone, like, in front of them. It was it's crazy because we missed all this, right? We didn't see any of these things happening. And they're surrounded by all these police officers, and there's controversy about that. Like, do we really need that many police officers? Because it was almost like everybody wanted to be part of this case because it's so high profile, right? This is going to be my shot to be on TV. But then they were also saying that they needed all those police officers because the community was upset that they took Michael Jordan's father.
Right. You didn't know if someone was going to try to attack them or
outrage. And so as they're walking in, someone from the media shouts, asking them, "Is there anything you'd like to say?" And Green just says, "I didn't kill Mr. Jordan."
That's all he says.
That's all he says.
Okay.
He's like, "I didn't kill anyone. I didn't kill Mr. Jordan," which I thought was very. I don't know if I see that very often. I mean, maybe in the movies, but not. I just thought the way that he said it came across as very powerful to me.
Almost genuine.
Because the sheriff is, like, standing right in front of him, and he's surrounded by all these people, and he has Demery right behind him. So they were walked into. Demery didn't say anything. He was quiet. So I just feel like the whole thing. Michael Jordan never appears in court. There was some question on whether he was going to testify because obviously the items that Green was wearing at one point belonged to Michael. So there was questions on whether he would be there to testify that those in fact were his and he had gifted them to his father.
Right.
They did not want Michael Jordan in their town. They did not want that circus. They did not want the jury swayed in any form. So they agreed that his older brother, Larry, would attend and confirmed those were Michael's things. And so he did take the stand. But the Jordan family kept their distance from the entire trial. From what I understand, they were communicated with on a very intense level, but they never made an appearance, which had to be really hard.
I was just thinking about that, like how... Yeah. I don't
like to be that hands off, right?
Yeah,
and let that happen in another state while you're
all of the things that we talk about that come with celebrity. There's a lot of negative things.
That's why I'm not famous. I was like, no, thank you.
Right? We're like, no.
It's true. It had to be hard.
It had to be really, really hard. I can't imagine. Canyon's real upset about it.
He's super upset.
Yeah, I hear him. But no, I just think that's one of those things that you... I don't know.
I wonder if it was hard for him, like if it bothered him that he couldn't be there. Obviously, we'll never know because he was very quiet. But he did an Oprah interview, and he was saying in the Oprah interview how he didn't even want to know the details because he doesn't want to know anymore.
Well, it's just awful. It's horrible. You don't even know if you have the whole truth, and in the end, it doesn't bring him back.
It doesn't matter, right?
It
doesn't matter. So in 1995, Demery testified. This is basically what his story, that they were out, they saw this luxury sports car, and they decided that they were going to hold the driver at gunpoint and they were going to rob him.
Okay.
Then Demery, he gives two different kind of versions after this. One says that when Jordan stirred from his nap, that Green just shot him like alarmed, and that was like not part of the plan. He was just like, he's waking up. Like,
but then wouldn't there be evidence in the car?
Right. So then the other version of the story is that when they got there, Green was greedy and he really liked the car and he wanted to steal the car too. Mm-hmm. So he shot him.
Okay.
But it doesn't say like in the car, out of the car. I don't have that information.
Okay. It just, to me, I guess, because I always try to imagine the scenarios that you're putting me in, and I imagine, like you said, when someone stirs from their nap, they're still in the car.
They're still in the car. But there was no blood found in the car. Remember I told you that? There was no blood in the car. So they shot him in the chest and it ruptured his aorta. That's how. So I guess he could potentially have bled internally.
Right. Okay.
But it's a gunshot. But I don't know that much. But they didn't find any gun or any blood in the car, is what they said initially. But he gives like these two versions of a story, which makes me feel like, I don't know. You have to tell me what you think when this is all over, because it's just too much for me. They say they didn't know that it was James Jordan until they went through the car later and saw like the registration and all of these things. Now, Green, still to this day, he said that he's not the trigger man. He did not kill James Jordan. He wasn't even there. So he admits to originally lying. He's like, I lied, but I did it to protect Emery. Okay. And I'm also scared of the police. Like, he was very fearful of them.
I could see that too.
I could see it going either way. Yeah. So this is what Green says happened. Okay. He says the day before James Jordan was killed, they went to a barbecue, like a party, a barbecue. He was there with Demery. Demery left around 1:30 a.m. to take care of some business on a drug-related trip he was taking to New York the next day. Green says Demery was like, come along, but he refused because he was hanging out with his lady friend. Okay. Demery returned later, super out of sorts, upset, shaking, and that he told Green that he had shot a man off the highway near the Quality Inn and asked Green to help him dispose of the body. So Green's like, he goes with them. The two drive to the motel. And actually his mom is interviewed in this, and I guess somehow like his mom was up and awake. I don't know what time. If he left at 1:30 a.m., I don't know what time he came back. But I guess his mom, they were back partying at his mom's house at that point, the mobile home, and his mom was like, don't go. She just had a bad vibe. Yeah. And you have to remember when I'm telling these things, because you're like, oh my gosh, people are coming at 4:30 in the morning. They were partying hard. Like, this is a different lifestyle. Yeah. Not to be... Right. It's different. Mm-hmm. So he goes with them. They drive to the motel, and that's when Green says he sees the body for the first time. The body was in a ditch beside a small store next to the Quality Inn.
Okay. Well, it's all lining up.
He says right there, his 18-year-old self had to make a decision. He can either turn his back on his friend, who is like a brother, or he can help him dispose of this body and cover up a murder. It was a split-second decision. Right. He was already there. He saw the body. He was either going to turn him in because he knew the questions were going to be coming, or does he... I can't imagine that decision considering their lifestyle and probably what they're up against on a daily basis. It's very different. I can't... They
probably have to have each other's backs like that all the time. It's probably like for survival.
It's very different. So I'm trying not to be judgy. Right. Green and Demery, obviously he's in, right? He decides he's going to dispose of the body. They take Jordan's body to Pea Bridge and they dump his body over into Gum Swamp. And this is in South Carolina, so it's just across the border. Okay. But he said, I didn't have anything to do with the actual murder. Like, I wasn't present for the shooting. I helped dispose of the body. I drove around in the car. Mm-hmm. I made the phone calls. I took the jewelry. Video. Yeah. He also claims that he still didn't know that the car belonged to James Jordan because Demery was supposedly going to work on this like drug deal. So he thought it was a drug deal car. It was like a runner car. Okay. And then the deal somehow went bad and Green like shot the guy. Apparently they don't talk to each other about it. I don't know. He also thought that the jewelry was replica. Okay. Okay. He's like, I just thought it was like not real. It was in the car and I took it. Like I don't know. It's so, and then during his interview, so he does a couple of interviews that I watched and he's very distraught because he lied for his friend. Like they came up with this story and he was like a ride or die, right? And his friend turned on him and made him the trigger man. But there's more. Okay. So right now you're feeling bad for Green.
I am a little bit. I'm going to say you swayed me a little bit in this direction. My meter's going over here now.
I know. This is a back and forth meter.
This is crazy.
It is.
Okay.
Now, during the trial, another unfortunate damning testimony comes from a store clerk.
Okay.
He was robbed 8 days prior to Jordan's death. He says 2 gentlemen came in. One grabbed the gun. He ended up getting shot 3 times. They took the money. He identifies the shooter. Who do you think the shooter is?
Uh-oh. He said that's Green.
Yep.
Well,
who's his partner?
Oh, Demery.
Yeah.
Of course.
And guess what kind of gun it was?
Same gun?
38 caliber pistol. I know. But a side note about finding the pistol in the shop vac was that because it was found at Green's mom's mobile home, they automatically thought it was Green. But what they find out later is actually that Demery was also staying there.
Okay.
So it might not necessarily. So the 2 men obviously have very different stories. And the only evidence they truly have on Green as being the one who pulled the trigger is what Demery said.
Right.
There's no proof.
But.
So what do you think?
Well, right now I'm thinking that he has no problem shooting anybody.
Mm-hmm.
If he already just did it 8 days ago. He obviously has no qualms about picking up a gun and pointing it and shooting it and having no remorse for that.
Okay.
Right?
I mean, I guess, but I
mean, the
like
guy survived and said
and pointed him
him
out. Correct. But as far as shooting James Jordan, there's no evidence.
Right. No, there's none.
There's no evidence saying that he did it except for Demery saying that he did.
Right.
Is that not crazy?
Yeah, and what does Demery say after all this?
So it's April 1995, and like I said, Demery took a plea deal. He agreed to testify against Green, hoping that would give him some sort of leniency in his other sentencing. So he did plead guilty to first-degree murder and some other charges, but the key really was what they wanted was him to testify against Green. They just wanted the trigger man.
Right.
And like I said, most of the case really was just based on Demery's testimony. There's no
But his story changed a couple times.
It did. Green was also convicted of first-degree murder, and both of them were given life sentences. They're both still in prison. If Green was found guilty on what he says he does, his sentence would have been a maximum of 10 years.
Oh, okay.
That's, wow. Well, first of all, I think you should get more than 10 years for that.
Yeah.
But.
Well, it's a lot less than what he received, but
either
way.
Yeah.
I mean, these guys took a man's body and dumped it in the river, and
I have a hard time, I don't know, maybe he didn't know it was James Jordan, but I have a hard time believing. But then again, maybe they didn't know because he wasn't reported missing. So it wasn't on the news like, hey, James Jordan was missing in this red Lexus. If it truly went down the way that Green said, I think Demery probably knew. Because someone went through his stuff.
Well, yeah. And, yeah.
I don't know. But they joyrided around in the car for like 3 days. You're not going to think that what you're
taking out of a car like that has all the bells and whistles is a replica. You're probably...
Well, he had him on. They took him off of his dead body before they got rid of it. I mean, do you think this man... I mean, he was an older man. It's not like he was like 20, like running around with a bunch of fake bling. In this nice sports car with a car phone.
Right. You're not going to think that it's... That's what I'm saying. Yeah, no.
Yeah, I know.
It's the real deal.
So, in August of 2020, Demery, who pleaded guilty to first-degree murder, was granted parole. So, he was denied 2 other times. This time, he was granted parole. And he's scheduled to be released on August 6th of 2023. How do you feel about that?
I feel like it's only a matter of time before he's back behind bars.
Hopefully before someone gets hurt.
I'm just saying, I don't know if that's going to be the case or not, but in these situations, mark my words, that man is going back.
Probably. Yep. And like I said, Green, he's maintained his innocence since he was arrested. He's never wavered. He's always said he hasn't done it. He's been filing for motions since he's been behind bars to get his case reviewed again by the courts, but no one will acknowledge it.
It's so high profile that it's not going to happen, I don't think.
Well, in January 2020 was the last time where a Superior Court judge ruled that he cannot get his case back in front of the court because the order read exactly, the defendant has failed to establish any newly discovered evidence which would entitle him to a new trial. I mean, it's really just hearsay.
Yeah, no, I
didn't do it. This is what really happened.
Yeah.
So Green's response, this is what he says, and I quote, "I'm not surprised because I'm innocent of the crime, yet I was convicted. I've been fighting for 26 years trying to access the courts. The people of North Carolina should be afraid of any institution that relies on fear and bribery to muzzle those charges with protecting basic due process. This does not serve the interests of the Jordan family. They're being manipulated. I do apologize for my role in helping create this situation."
Okay. He's had some time to write that and put that together.
I was going to say, I'm going to show you that rap video.
Yeah. I was going to say, he had a little help with that speech, is what I'm going to say. And I'm not saying that I don't know. It could have gone either way. I can't even tell you who I think is guilty.
No, but that's what I'm saying. I don't even know if we'll ever know the truth because...
No. But again, I guess I kind of see the Jordan family's point of view of, you know what, it doesn't matter. Something
you both
really
did
bad
it.
happened. You both were involved. You both did horrific things.
Whether you pulled the trigger or not,
Right.
you still got... You were so disrespectful to this body. You threw it in a swamp and you joyrided around in the car. And like I told you, I think I mentioned before, they called sex hotlines from the car phone.
That doesn't show any remorse to me.
No. None
whatsoever.
And taking a dead man's jewelry. If you thought it was a replica, then you should have just let it go. Don't take it out. So, we've had this conversation before where maybe you didn't do that, but you did this. So you probably should be there anyway.
And I'd like to think that there's hope and rehabilitation for people who go down this path, but I hate to say it, I don't.
Probably not. They do believe that eventually he will get out. I think he's up for parole in October of 2023, I believe I read. Mm-hmm. That's when he's going to be eligible to apply, I guess. Is that what it's called?
If he does, then I hope he proves us wrong and he turns his life around and does something better with it.
I hope so. And I'm not going to go into too much of it, but there are some, I don't know if I want to call them conspiracy theories, but there was some.
I did read a little bit on that.
About like the gambling.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
But I was waiting for you to tell me because.
Some believe that it could have been linked to, remember, this is just when Michael Jordan's gambling was brought to light.
Yeah.
And I didn't apparently like gambled about everything. Like he would even gamble when they were in the airport. Like, whose bag do you think that's going to come out first?
Wow.
Like,
okay.
I'm going to bet you $10. Like,
yeah.
Like apparently it was like he just perpetual gambler at like everything. So they were saying that this might have been linked to he did have some gambling debt. There were some things that came out that were less than favorable. He owed some money to some pretty bad people. We can't hide that. It really did happen. Right. It's never been linked. I don't know, but that's been a theory that's been out there. So they're like, oh, are these two like the fall guys? So we're just gonna. But it really sounds like they did it.
Sounds like they got rid of the body.
They're admitting to getting rid of the body. Yeah. They're admitting to that part. Another thing that was really, really crazy, which they don't go into at all, is that one of the phone calls that was made on that car phone was actually to this drug dealer who happens to be Sheriff Stone's son, but a son that he acknowledges but not part of his family. Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay. Who's a huge drug dealer who actually ended up going into prison for like working with like the Colombian cartel. The only person that they didn't talk to out of those phone calls.
That guy.
Interesting, huh? How, I mean, he probably, I don't know if he had anything to do with anything, but I just thought it was really convenient that the sheriff's,
could it have been leaked?
The sheriff's son didn't get Tina get talked to.
No.
It could have been. I mean,
but like I was thinking, could it have been linked in some way with what Demery was supposed to be doing in New York, and then he was maybe like a small time for this guy, like trying to prove himself, and then got caught up in some other stuff, and then who knows what happened.
Right. Yeah. So it just kind of goes full circle to the whole not so great things that were going on there.
I'm going to say right now, though, that I don't believe it was anything to do with gambling or anything like that. That would just be so awful to think that something that you had done. No, I don't believe in any of the conspiracy theories, and that's why I didn't really go in. I just wanted to mention there always has to be conspiracy theories, though,
especially when it's this high profile. And they admitted to one of them killed James Jordan. They admit to disposing the body,
right? And whether or not you pulled the trigger, I still feel like they both should have gone down with the same sentence. And
yeah, it's hard. I just feel like even if Green's story is true and he shows up and he does the body and then they joyride around in the dead man's car, you really probably don't have a conscience. No. You probably shouldn't be.
Well, and you just shot somebody 8 days ago who he could have died, and then
you took the gun.
How many others were like that? If you're that comfortable shooting someone 3 times at a convenience store,
and he had only been out of prison for 3 months.
That's what I'm saying. How many times has he done that? I'm sure there's a lot of unsolved homicides in that county. I mean, you told me. What did I just tell you?
Right. What did I just tell you? Exactly.
I'm just saying.
So
I don't think it was either their first rodeo with anything.
No, I think they finally just got caught. And I think if it wasn't for this, they would have been caught for something else.
And I hate to say that it's just he was in the wrong place at the wrong time, but he was in the wrong place, I think, at the wrong time in just a really bad area where the wrong place at the wrong time happens a lot there. You know?
I do. I think so. I think it's just a very unfortunate sequence of events.
Yeah, I do too.
But, so I know that wasn't a happy story, but I'm glad that I have a little bit more understanding because.
Yeah, well, I had known that he lost his father in that way, but I didn't know all of this. I didn't know all the details of it.
Yeah, and when I was saying how like, oh, there's new stuff happening, what I really meant when I told you is that one of the convicted murderers is getting out.
Yeah.
His parole was approved and he is going to be getting out. So
we need to keep an eye on what happens next.
And the documentary that came out, like I said, added to your list. But it was very eye-opening on how things, I think some things happened wrong in this case, but how many things happened wrong sometimes in those little small counties that aren't.
Oh, yeah. We've talked about that before, even with
the good old
you're
boys.
saying these people over here are getting talked to, but these people over here we don't want to bother them.
Because they're not the problem. Yeah.
Right. They're upstanding citizens. They wouldn't have done anything wrong. We can't go just knock on their door and accuse them of something when you're like, well, but why not?
Yeah.
You're accusing them. What did they do? You know what I'm saying.
No, I know exactly what you're saying.
It doesn't really matter. Everyone needs to get talked to.
They do. So that wraps up my part 2.
Well, thank you. I appreciate knowing all the details now of that story, but
there's a lot more.
It makes me so sad because right, I feel like that could happen to anybody. It's just really awful. My heart goes out to the Jordans and everyone. You know, everybody there were so many people that took that personally that didn't even know. I mean, their family is so loved and he is so loved. And, you know, everybody was like, that's our family that you're messing with. You know, not just in North Carolina, but all over.
Well, I mean, look at us in Chicago, everywhere. Like I said. When we moved there and they were like, Michael Jordan's ours. I was like, wait, I thought he was ours.
Yeah. And like what you were saying too, it's so cool to see when celebrities have great relationships that they're putting out there for everyone to see. whether it be a great marriage or, how they raise their kids or how they do whatever, or like you were saying with him and his pops,
Yeah, I mean, that was probably the hardest part about doing this story, is that I really wanted it to be about James Jordan. Obviously, the reason I came upon it is because his son was Michael Jordan, but
right.
I didn't want to downplay
right.
his importance.
I think you did it justice. I think you did, and I think I know that's always the fear of, oh, we don't want to say this is just somebody's father or somebody's brother or somebody's mom. They're a person too, and their life, deserved.
Yeah, just as much acknowledgement.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a good guy.
Yeah, it sounded like it.
Next we move on to
I think music. I have one more. Yes, I have a musician story.
Oh yes, because I sprung a two-parter on you again.
Yeah,
without planning it. I did.
So I'm waiting to put my story up until after this one goes up, because then that way people don't have to wait. You're welcome. Yes.
But you won't have to wait another week. That's right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, and then I'll have a music story. I have a couple in mind. I just need to narrow it down. Until then.
Yeah, and until then, hey, you know what? If you guys have any story suggestions, or we kind of come up with these themes for the month just to keep us on target, like, oh, we'll do, musicians or athletes or whatever we kind of come up with, and that's how we narrow down our focus. If anybody has anything like that you want to throw our way.
Absolutely. And we picked the topic just to narrow down our research, because if I go down that rabbit hole, I'm not coming back out. I need someone to
we need a little guidance.
Yeah.
We just have to kind of rein it in and narrow it down, because there's just so many. So yeah, but until next week, again, you guys,
rate and review.
Please rate and review. We would love to hear from you. I appreciate all the messages from everybody, and they are so wonderful. And I keep thinking, man, if they would only put that in a review,
I know,
so other people can read it, that would be so amazing. So if you can find a way to do that, we really, from the bottom of our heart, appreciate it. That, that's how people can find us. So yeah, we appreciate you guys. Thanks for listening, and have a great day, night, whenever you're listening. It's nighttime for us. So I'm going to say have a good night.
All right. Good night.
Good night.